We get stronger in knowing that we can deal with things. And in that process, hope or acceptance or a certain kind of knowledge is born that things won't necessarily be how we like them to be, but whatever comes our way, we'll be able to deal with it. We'll be able to open to it, and it'll be okay. There's sort of a trust. There's a trust. And I think in order to get to that place, there has to be a level of self-acceptance. There has to be a level of knowing that I can't be any different than I am. This is who I am. And I don't have to over-identify with it. That self-acceptance comes with letting go a little bit. Like, this is just what this heart-mind does. And I think Chana is a figure of great strength. So I think those three things really help to build patience of spirit. So there were two other things I wanted to say. I'm right on time, so that's good. One is, I started this fall taking an art class, a printmaking class. And my mother is an artist, and many of my closest friends are artists, and I had every art class in the world as a kid, and I think I always thought I was supposed to be an artist and rebelled quite early against that. And have been very phobic of doing any kind of art. I mean, I knit some, I crochet some, I put together photo albums, things like that. But I decided that part of my practice needed to be doing some kind of creative work, that was really important. So I decided to take a printmaking class at the Woodstock School of Art. And it's a great place. It's a great place. And just because people always ask, I'm doing linoleum cuts. That's work I'm doing. But in the class, wood cuts happen, and etchings happen, and monotypes happen, for those of you who are interested. And the class is a class that's completely set. Like, those people have been doing it for years, and I just joined it. It happens every Friday. And it's incredible. It's an incredible experience of patience of spirit. There may be like 12 people in the class who come regularly. Only 8 come regularly. And I'm the youngest. And the guy who founded, the vast majority of people are, 60s, 70s, and 80s. And the man who founded the school, Bob Angelak, who is a fine printmaker, is in the class. He was the teacher of the class for many years. He's got one wife and an ex-wife who are in the class. And the woman who teaches the class is a woman named Kate McLaughlin, who is a fine printmaker. She's younger than me. She's the youngest person in the class. She's 2 years younger than me. She came to the Woodstock School of Art as a painter and started studying printmaking with Bob Angelak, this guy. And he sits in his desk that he always sat in as the teacher, and she sits in her desk that she always sat in as the student, and she's the teacher now. He is fairly not there, in terms of his brain, or I don't know what the politically correct thing to say is, but he completely can do his art. And if you talk to him about his art or your art, he's totally on target. If you try to talk to him about anything else, you can't have a conversation. So he has an ex-wife in the class who also has been doing printmaking for years, and she has a real memory loss. So Kate, who is a devoted teacher, and one of the Lamed Vavniks, one of the 36 righteous people in the world. She teaches the class, and it's quite amazing. I'll just talk about these two people. There are other people in the class also like them. The ex-wife doesn't remember how to do her craft. She knows how to do it, but she doesn't remember what she's supposed to do next. So Kate reminds her how she would have done it. she comes to Kate with her work and she says, I don't know what to do next. And Kate says, well, you would have done it like this. And then she reminds her enough so she sits down and she does it. And Bob, I've been in the class for a couple of months, and every class everybody proofs their work. They take prints of their work to see what the state of their work is. Bob doesn't proof his work. He knows exactly where he's going. And he just stays with his work over and over and over again. And there was 2 weeks ago when I was there, a couple of weeks ago, the wife had been working on something and she printed it up, and in the next moment she sat down and started her new work. She didn't miss a beat. It's just about being in the moment and doing the work. And Kate, as the facilitator of that, she doesn't try to get them anywhere. They don't try to go anywhere. Their capacity just to be with the work that they're doing as long as it takes, uninterrupted. And when that piece is done, it's moving on to the next piece. And it's a great, for me as somebody who is so concerned about what I'm going to do and how it's going to look, it's such a great model of just patience of spirit. And her ability to just rest with them in that place and honor them in that way is pretty remarkable. The last thing I wanted to say, I was teaching about patience a little bit. I have a Thursday morning group, and so I practice what I'm saying on them. And one of my women said, yeah, but what about politics? We spend a lot of time talking about the suffering in the world in my group. What about, how do we be patient with, all of the terrible, terrible things that are going on? And I think it's an important question for each of us to really, really wrestle with. And I know that, and really this is, I didn't read this part. This is, I'll say what I have to say on top of Rabbi Wine, because I think this partly answers that. Many times, doing nothing and saying nothing is the right policy at home and in the community. And the recognition that most problems in life are not subject to easy answers and quick solutions, and also contributes to wisdom and sensible behavior. Being able to wait out a child, a student, a problem, is often the only possible way to succeed in dealing with a situation. So that's one aspect. I think the other aspect is that if our hearts are not, when our hearts are in this place of patience, our capacity to respond to whatever is arising in the world is so much more profound that the way in which we are deeply rooted in our capacity to abide, if we can really rest in whatever's happening and not be reactive to it, but see it clearly, then our capacity to respond is just infinitely richer. And it doesn't mean that we have to wait until we're completely centered and completely anything. But the promise of this practice, which is true, is that as we commit ourselves, as we develop our concentration, as we hold our goals dear, as we persist, we become stronger and we become clearer and we become more able to respond for the benefit of all beings. Because that's all there really is all beings. So let's just take a moment.